For my first counseling videotape, I'm going to be interviewing a young lady who is struggling with marijuana addiction, who is 23 years old, and she's pregnant with her first child. And we're going to make the tape at least 20 minutes long and try to cover all the different areas of confidentiality, and I'm going to do a little mini psychosocial evaluation, and we're going to talk about different aspects of her addiction, and then try to address some possible positive sides where we'll be able to turn it around with some help, maybe work on quitting, getting off the pot, particularly since she is pregnant. So here we go. Hi, I'm Miss Barnes. I'm your new counselor.
Hi, I'm Ashley.
Hi, Ashley. It's good to meet you today. I understand that you've come to visit the counseling center because you are struggling with marijuana?
Yes, while pregnant.
While you're pregnant. Okay. Well, we'll certainly discuss that. But before we get started, since it's your first visit to the counseling center, there are some housekeeping issues that I need to let you know. I know you filled out my assessment for me and your intake form, so you're probably well aware of the confidentiality agreement that was in there, but I'm going to go over that briefly with you just to make sure that you understand about confidentiality and receiving counseling.
Yes,
of course, I don't really, I save your files on paper, and I will keep those in a secure place. They will be under lock and key, and no one will have access to your files who doesn't have a reasonable right to know. And but there are some legal exceptions to that. For instance, if I believe that you might harm another person, I have a legal right that I have to report that.
Okay.
And I want you to know that before we get started. Or if you happen to be abusing or neglecting a child or an elderly person, that's also another case where I really need to report. And also if I believe that you are in imminent danger of harming yourself, we will need to, consider where to go, what to do next as far as reporting. I have a legal responsibility. But of course, at any time you have a right to ask questions regarding anything that happens in counseling. Feel free to ask those questions, anything that you think will be helpful to you in understanding the process. You can leave therapy at any time. You are not bound to stay here, although it's recommended that before you leave that you would discuss that. Particularly if counseling has ups and downs, and it's a good idea for you to discuss with me your reasons for leaving, and if I'll do whatever I can to help you through any processes that might come in.
Okay, I understand.
Okay, great. Can you tell me who referred you to come to see me for an assessment?
My gynecologist nurse, one of the nurses at my gynecologist's office, had referred me to you.
Okay, so this is pretty much an intervention type of visit.
Yes.
Where they want you to deal with your marijuana addiction before you end up with legal issues.
Yes.
So are you involved in any legal issues at this time?
Not at this moment, and I'm trying to stay away from that legal issue. I have a fear of losing my child.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get myself better.
That's a really good reason to get better when you have a child. Gives you all kinds of good reasons for doing the right things, doesn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Alrighty. Well, before we go any further, can you describe the main reason that you're here? I understand the marijuana, the pregnancy, but just talk about your habits, your marijuana habits.
Well, every morning I wake up and I automatically go and I light myself a bowl. Excuse me for using those words if it's inappropriate, but I light myself a bowl because I feel that I have to do it every day as soon as I wake up because I feel that I'm going to be overstressed and overwhelmed, and marijuana seems to be the only way to keep me calm throughout the day. And I don't just, smoke it in the mornings. I smoke it off and on all day long, every day, from morning until I go to sleep. It's something I've done for, 11 years now, and I'm trying to stay away from it.
So you smoke it all day long?
All day long. I guess every 2 to 3 hours I hit at least one G-bong hit.
Okay. All right. Is smoking the pot interfering with your daily functioning?
For a long time I didn't think so, but it really is. I can't remember things from yesterday. It all seems to be a blur. And I notice when I go and drive, I'm driving down the road, and when I finally remember, where I'm at, I forget about how I got there. My memory's starting to fade. I can't remember things. Someone tells me 2 days ago, I can't remember who I saw, what I ate, and when it comes to me being pregnant, I want to remember these things about my child, but if I continue to smoke pot, I know that the reason, doing that's not only going to affect my memory, it's going to affect my child's memory. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking, I'm telling myself I'm being selfish by continuing to smoke, but it's a habit I've had for such a long time that I really just want to get away from it to better mine in my child's life, if that really makes sense.
It does. What about, you said something about smoking pot for 11 years. When did you start smoking marijuana?
When I was 13 years old. I picked up my first joint from a family member. Everyone in my family they all smoked pot when I was growing up. They did it every day in the house, gathered in the living room. They would all smoke it. And I took my first hit from my sister when I was 13 years old, and ever since then, we all get together and we all smoke at least, once or twice a week. But I think the reason I became so addicted to it was not because I liked it when I first tried it, but because I wanted to be like the rest of my family and fit in because they all did it. But now at this point, I'm so addicted to it, I just feel it's so hard to quit. Mm-hmm. But I really want to, and that's why I'm here.
Okay. So tell me about your living arrangements right now.
Well, currently I live in a trailer park. And
do you live alone?
No, I have a boyfriend.
Okay.
And he smokes pot as well. And we've been together 6 years now. And we started out, he's been smoking pot just as long as I have. Mm-hmm. And it's rough on both of us, especially when one wants weed and the other one doesn't, and we just kind of fight and argue over it. And I don't like the living arrangements that we're in because with smoking the weed, it's hard for me to find the jobs that I want.
Okay. So what about your education?
I graduated from high school. I never went to college, and I want to get on my fast track to go back to college because I want to be a veterinarian.
That's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Very positive. All right. So talk to me a little bit about your family history. What is your relationship like with your father?
Me and my father, well, for a long time I didn't really know my dad because he left when I was really young. But here in the past 5 years, I've become very close to my real dad. Mm-hmm. And he's the only one in my family who doesn't smoke pot. And he is very kind. And I'm really glad to have him because he loves to spend time with me and my sister. And we get to hang out and go do, I guess, fun things.
So your dad's a real positive
Yes.
support for you.
He's a very positive reinforcement for my
Good.
life.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What does your father think about your smoking pot and your pregnancy?
He is very disappointed in my habits and the things that I've chosen to do in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And he prays and wishes that I better my life, and it really breaks my heart to see how much disappointment I put in him when he puts so much positive reinforcement in me.
All right. So he's still a force for good in your life.
Yeah, he was disappointed, but he has confidence in me.
What about your relationship with your mother?
That's a very rocky relationship. My mom isn't my biggest supporter. She's very verbally abusive, yelling and screaming, and one day she hates me, and one day she loves me, and we've had a very up and down relationship ever since I was a teenager. My mom kicked me out when I was 16 years old, and I went and lived in a motel, and I stayed there for, I guess, about a month until my friend came and got me and my boyfriend and moved us into our own apartment to help. And she didn't talk to me for about 2 years after that, and we're slowly reconnecting, but my mom's still my mom. She still does the same thing. She's just trying to be nicer about it, I guess.
Well, how does your mother feel about your marijuana smoking and your pregnancy?
She supports it. She says she did the same thing when she was pregnant and believes that there's no problem in smoking weed while pregnant because she did it and her kids turned out fine, but I know that I'm not fine. I've got anger problems. I've got anxiety. I've got depression. I've got all these issues, and I know I don't want my child to have the same problems, and I have learning disabilities to my mom smoking marijuana while pregnant with me, and she said, oh, my kids are fine, but I know I'm not, and I don't want my child to suffer through the same things that I did as a child and growing up and in school and having to do things 10 times harder than everybody else because of it.
So, would you say that your mother supports not just your marijuana smoking while you're pregnant, but supports you becoming a mother?
She says as long as she doesn't have to deal with a child until after it learns to be potty trained, she doesn't care.
All right. So that's how she. What about other people in your family? Do you have sisters and brothers?
Yes, I have a sister. She's about 6 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
She works at a truck stop, but she also smokes pot, which also keeps her from doing the jobs that she wants. And I mean, she's about the closest family member I am because we live right down the road from each other, and my dad lives a long ways away, so me and my sister, we're pretty close. Now we have our fallouts and we have our fights, but we stick together, especially when it comes to our mom, because her mom is definitely not our biggest supporter, and we stick with each other to try to support each other, but it's hard when we both have severe depression. I feel I have severe depression. I get angry at the littlest things. I feel that if I don't smoke it, I'm going to go crazy and I'm going to get angry, and I don't want that fear, because when my mom used to smoke, she used to get abusive, or when she didn't smoke, she got abusive, and so I feel that I'm going to be like my mom, and I'm going to wind up abusing my children like my mom abused me.
And you don't want to be that.
I don't want to be that, but I also I have that fear, but I know that if I continue counseling about that, I can overcome that fear.
Well, and people who are real cognizant of that fact, people usually go one of the other ways. They become an abuser, or they're able to stave off and not become an abuser.
Yes.
And completely opposite of that thing. And that's what you want to choose. So now, what about your relationships with your boyfriend? You live with your boyfriend.
Yes.
And you say he smokes pot too.
Yes.
So you have someone there living in your household with you. Is he ready to quit smoking pot?
No. He is far from ready to quit smoking pot. I've tried talking him into it and telling him, what good things come from it, saving money, not losing memory, being able to know what happens day to day, and he seems far from interested in quitting. But at this point, I want to quit, better my child's life, and move away.
Okay. So you're planning not to stay with him.
I don't want
if
to stay
he
with
can't if he can't do that.
Yes.
Okay. So he's not abusive or anything like that in your relationship.
He is. He is verbally and physically abusive at times. When things don't go his way, he tends to hit me. But it's I don't know. I say he only does it because he doesn't have his weed, or he hasn't had a joint, and I tell myself that, but I know that it's not that. I can tell it's not that, because what man really hits a woman and blames it on drugs?
Okay. Well, we will certainly get to that if you want to continue counseling, and we'll discuss some options for you, and discuss. It's very important, though, that being safe is the very first priority.
Yes.
You don't just need to be safe for you now. You need to be safe for the baby that you're carrying.
And that's why
on top of that.
That's why I want to overcome this, and
we have probably to talk about some options for that today before you leave. I want you to feel empowered to leave if you need to leave, and I want to give you the name of some resources in case that does become an issue where you have to make a choice about something like that.
Okay.
Do you have problems with any other drugs, like alcohol, crack, heroin, ecstasy, or any psychedelic type drugs, anything like that, or is it just marijuana?
It's just marijuana.
Okay, so you don't drink?
Not while I'm pregnant.
Okay, good for you. So you're ready to cut down on your substance, and you're pretty much prepared to try to take some positive steps toward healing from that.
Yes.
So I think probably one of the things we need to do is think about some strategies.
Okay.
So what have you tried in the past for as far as trying to stop smoking? What kind of things have you done, and have you been successful at any of those?
I really don't.
You've never really tried to stop smoking pot?
I mean, I did, and I tried vaping. I've tried smoking cigarettes. I've tried chewing gum, anything of that sort, and it worked for a few days to maybe a week, and then I started craving it really bad, and I was wanting back.
Okay. So before you tried that time, what was your reason for wanting to quit at that time, when you were trying to vape and chew gum and other things and not smoke pot?
I was trying to get a job as a veterinarian assistant.
And you couldn't do that, smoking pot?
No, they
Why?
drug tested me, and I failed the drug test.
Okay.
And they were going to give me a second chance to pass my drug test, and I tried to quit smoking, and they told me I had 2 weeks to quit and come back, and I couldn't even make it those 2 weeks.
Okay. All right. But you have a much stronger physical reason. This isn't just you anymore.
No.
So, and what kind of consequences would you say might be looming on the horizon if you can't quit smoking?
I'll lose my child. I know with the new laws of, if you're smoking and they find it in your system, you will lose your child. I can't bear the thought of losing my child because of my bad habits of smoking weed. My child needs to come first, and that's what I'm trying to do, is make sure that my child comes first, and getting help to make sure that happens.
Okay.
With me and my child, because my child always comes first.
And forgive me for not knowing, but is this your first child?
Yes. Yes, it is. It is my first child.
Okay. Never been pregnant before?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So this is your very first one, and this is your good reason to want to quit.
Yes.
So you are in it to win it. You have decided you really want to quit.
Yes, I am certain that I am going to quit.
Okay, so when you quit the last time, what kind of symptoms did you experience after you quit and you were unsuccessful?
Well, when I was trying to quit, I was shaky, I was sweating, I was nervous, my anxiety skyrocketed, and all I could think about was where I can get my next hit from.
Okay. A lot of those symptoms that you were experiencing during that time were more in your brain, psychosomatic, rather than in your body. Because you've developed a mental habit, a mental addiction to smoking the marijuana. So you need to know that. You need to kind of say, okay, this is not my body. This, just because I'm having problems with insomnia, or I'm having problems with losing my appetite, or whatever you're experiencing, you need to try to tell yourself that, and you need to prepare yourself for more positive ways to deal with those things. You know they're going to happen. You've been there before. So you can make a plan for dealing with it so that road won't be so rocky as you cross it.
That's a very good point.
Yep. One of the things you probably want to do is make sure you're taking really good care of your body. Eating right, drinking plenty of fluids, getting plenty of variety in your food, nourish your body so your body can feel as healthy as it can possibly feel. And that'll help you be a little more successful. And there's two ways you could go. You could just cold turkey, or you could just taper off a little bit. And these are things that you probably want to consider is, how am I going to do that? Am I going to say, okay, today I'm going to get up and I'm going to smoke one bowl of marijuana in the morning and one at night? Or I'm going to smoke 3 a day, or I'm not going to smoke any at all. I'm going to go cold turkey. And considering your reason for needing to quit is that you don't want them to test you and find you still positive for marijuana when you go back to the doctor, that you probably need to try the cold turkey.
Yeah.
And realize you're going to have some mental withdrawal symptoms.
But I have to put my child first and think about my child so I can overcome it.
Okay. And so another thing that you need to do is develop a plan. You say you smoke pot because it makes you feel angry. Because you feel angry.
Yes.
When you get up, and you don't want to be angry with your children. So what kind of a plan can you develop that can help you either, number one, not be right there with the kids if you're feeling like you're angry, like have somebody to go to or go to something, or develop a plan with with people and all that you might be around, whether it's your boyfriend or your nephews and nieces, and you don't want to be angry with them, then you need to develop a plan of, how am I going to do that? I'm going to separate myself from the situation. I'm going to go take a walk. I'm going to go to the shower. I'm going to explain to this person that I'm having withdrawal symptoms, or that I'm trying to overcome this, so that you can have a plan, so that they won't just, kind of keep after you when you really need to be away from them, and deal with them in a much more effective way. So distracting your mind from the things that you're doing. Drink plenty of water, because that helps to flush your body, keeps you hydrated, and makes your mind and other things work just a little bit better.
What do you think about going and running every morning? I've heard running, exercising really gets your blood flowing and gets your mind going.
It does, but you need to be in a really healthy frame of mind. If you feel up to that, certainly give it a try. But realize that not everything you try is going to be the biggest success ever. One of the more important things you can do is create a social network of people. And I suggest that you maybe want to try going to a 12-step meeting, so that you can meet other people that have been through this, and are going through the withdrawal symptoms from marijuana, and maybe even some of them, maybe even other drugs. But maybe you can find someone there who can sponsor you, someone that's been through it and is in full recovery, who can you could call, every day when you can't talk to your boyfriend or your mom about it or your sister about not smoking pot. You can call them and say, hey. Today's a bad day for me, and I'm struggling, and I really want to smoke pot. And they can help talk you through that because they've been there and they've done that. Also, don't forget that you're a very important person too. Your baby's very important, and you need to reward yourself for your successes. And we want to be able to get together again and discuss what your progress is, and we can meet a couple of times a week while you're going through this and see how your progress goes. And if you're still struggling, the next time you come, we'll talk about some other alternate solutions, or at least some alternate things that you can try, even if they're not solutions, that might help get you off the ground. How do you feel about this meeting?
I feel that it's going to help me really get to that point of completely quitting, and I'm starting tomorrow. I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna start by not smoking any weed at all, and if it's okay, I'd like to meet at least 3 times a week.
We can do
to
that.
keep pushing myself to quit to the point where I can come, once a week, once a month, to show myself progress and to help keep motivated.
Right. Well, we will meet 3 times a week then until you feel strong and until you start getting some good progress. So, do you have any questions for me?
No, ma'am.
All right. Well, I've enjoyed meeting you, and I think you are on the right track here with something that's going to make your whole life better, not just your baby's life better, but something that's going to improve your life and your future. So when we meet next time, we'll just have some more discussions. I'd like to also touch base with you on how your relationship is going with your boyfriend and your living arrangements. And before you leave today, I have a handout that has information on shelters and other things, because if you're struggling with an abusive relationship, you need some alternatives.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.